So hi. How's it going, everyone? We're gonna go into story time. It's story time! Do any of you have any spooky stories? Like, something you've experienced, or something that's happened? Feel free to share. Experience ghosts mad at me? Ooh. Do tell. Do tell. I'm curious now. Because we're going into major spooky season. I have one from when I was a kid that was really creepy, actually. I'll start with one of mine, and then we'll go from there. Back when I used to live in the place known as Texas, and my mom and I, it was just us, and we had just moved into a new house, and we were really liking it so far. But then one night, I woke up, and I wanted to go get a popsicle, but I heard something moving around in the kitchen. And so my mom comes out, and she's like, I thought you were sneaking around to try and get a popsicle. And I said, I was thinking about it. But then I heard something else. Is that not you? I mean, obviously not. You're here in the hallway. And she's like, yeah, that's not me. And so we walked into the kitchen. And keep in mind, it was only us two, and we had a cat that was in my room sleeping with me at the time. And we turned on the light in the kitchen, and every single plate, every single cup, every single utensil, pot, everything that we had put away earlier that day was out on the counter or on the floor, and there was a knife hovering in the middle of the room that dropped to the floor as soon as we turned on the light. And my mom was immediately like, oh god. So yeah, we're done with that. That was fun. That was an interesting time. Another one I had was, I had a small ghost hunter phase when I was in high school, and so I took one of those recorders and I went to a nearby graveyard. So I went through kind of a major goth phase. I say kind of. It was a major goth phase. Let's be real here. Had a goth phase, was doing some ghost hunting, and one of my friends, Chris, this was when I was living in Oklahoma, we got one of the little recorders and we were walking around and everything. And we actually caught two separate recordings when it was just us. And you could hear us talking in the background while we were walking with it. So we were kind of in the background because we were talking, and I was holding it down by my hip. And we hear on one of them the sound of these two kids. And one said, "We're gonna die." And then another one chimed in saying, "Save us." And then the first one chimed back in saying, "Help." And it was terrifying to listen back to. And then we caught one more. That was in the actual graveyard. And we heard, "I've got to hide the head." And then whatever said it managed to disturb the birds because the birds nearby took off at the same time. We could hear the caws and everything. So yeah. It's some spooky stuff. We're into spooky season. It's time for the spooky stuff to come out. Do we have any other stories in the chat? I am curious. I had a period where I would sometimes see a shadow outside of my window when I was trying to sleep. I don't open my curtains anymore, and I haven't had the problem anymore after getting what you sent for my birthday last. Oh, I'm glad it helps. Like, I'm really glad that helps. For anyone who is curious, I sent her a few little things like crystals and a dream catcher and a few things like that. So yeah. My friend saw a skinwalker once. He said that he went driving one night and saw this guy walking down the side of the interstate. As he got closer to the guy, the man turned, looking him in the eye, despite my friend being in the car driving 70 plus down the road. He said it sent such a chill down his spine that he drove 90 home and locked the door behind him. Damn. That's spooky. One time I came home from visiting my grandma, and when we came in, there was a circle of knives in the living room. Oof. Yeah, I don't like the circle things. I don't like it when knives are involved in any way, shape, or form. My dad went to pick up fallen flowers at a grave, and I wanted to follow, and I stepped on the grave not knowing, and then while on my dad's shoulder and walking through the trail, I kept getting those prickly balls from the trees all over my body. The spirit was teasing me in revenge. Oh my goodness. No way possible it should have gotten me as I was in the air. Oh my goodness. So I'm up late, shocker, playing games, was around 17 or 18 maybe, and I heard something like Boots walking in the kitchen. Issue is, no one owned Boots in the house, and I'm the only one awake. Whatever walks through the kitchen to the intersection of my sister's and my room and our bathroom, waits a bit, then walks away to the back door. I walk out to check as well as my sister's dog from her bedroom. It's staring in the same direction I am. We look at each other and proceed to walk back to our respective rooms. Never heard it again. Ooh. I don't like that. There's a graveyard that moves locations in the forest near my That just sounds interesting and weird. Yeah, we even ran tests and marked trees each time near where we found it. I think we marked 5 trees before we realized that the trees that we marked were at least 10 minutes apart. Moving cemeteries. God, we got some good stories here tonight. When I was little, I saw a dog on the side of the road while we were driving. My mom asked what I was looking at, and I asked her if she saw it, and she said, no, Shadow Dog has been a fond memory for me. Ah, Shadow Dog. I'm familiar with those. They say that sometimes when you are driving or you're riding in a car and you look out the window and you don't have anything particular you're thinking about or nothing you're really focusing on, sometimes you'll see a shadow dog that decides to run along the side of the car and just keep you entertained for a little bit. They're actually quite nice. Let's see. I did have a dream of a shadowed figure standing over me. No details, but I have a duster hat on, long hair and beard, gloves and boots. It reaches down to me and I wake up jumping out of the bed, and in the spot this figure would be, it was colder than anywhere in the room. Same house, was maybe 16. Damn. Another story I have is when I was in high school, we lived in a trailer that had really thin walls. I could hear anything from my room. Whenever I was home alone and going to bed, I would hear voices start up in the living room as soon as I turned off all the lights. It was a man and woman, and I would hear them talk about me before one of them would come stomping to my door. I would always turn my back on the door and pretend I was asleep. Oof. That sounds spooky. Goodness. So, about a year out of high school, I was working a night job at my local Kroger. Pay short hours, but enough for a kid living with his dad. I'd started sleeping at day, waking up at night to be better awake during the graveyard shift. Now, after a couple months, my sleep schedule was wrecked, and you can imagine what sleep deprivation can do to a person. One night after my shift, I hop on my bike and start the ride home, and I think I see someone on the side of the road, then another, and they turn around and there's nothing. And then they turn around and there's nothing. No details on these on these things except for their teeth. Perfect white teeth and a smile 3 times wider than they should be. I shake my head and pedal faster, thinking to myself, I'm just tired. It's been a rough night. Just gotta get home, take a nap. And then another shows up past the next street lamp, and then the next one. And then the next one, ad nauseum. Then they're in pairs, then trios. I start pedaling as fast as possible back to my apartment, lock the door, hit the deadbolt in the chain, and then take a second to breathe. Then I see one of them in the corner of the living room. Oh, God. Oh. My brain moves into fight or flight, and I bolt upstairs to my bedroom, turn on every possible light I have while sitting against the door to keep it shut, just hearing something breathing on the other side. I call one of my buddies to just keep myself anchored, talking to them until I can't hear the breathing and am calm enough to try to sleep. This is spooky. Goodness, this is actually highly spooky. God damn. Have you heard about the Smiling Man? There's an old urban legend about the Smiling Man, which sounds kind of similar. Every place I've moved to, there's been at least one event where I either see one of them or a shadow under my door and the breathing. I remember Lavender Town actually did a video about naming something that they saw, and in the story the person named them Helen Highwater, so like Helen Highwater. His name's Frank now. Oh goodness, we have Frank and Phasmo too. But I'm glad he named it, and that can definitely help alleviate some of the fear, because dear fucking lord, that sounds terrifying. I don't know if I could deal with that. I have lots of cats. I think in my current apartment we have a friendly ghost, keeps the cats company and pulls cooked food from the microwave when it's done. Interesting. Yes, I have something like that, likes to sit in a recliner at random times in the day when I'm here. We cool. I call him Aloysius, and to note, hilariously, I am a skeptic. I remember being 3 days with no sleep and sitting in a hotel lobby with some coffee just trying to stay awake. I'm on my phone, someone sits next to me. I look at him briefly to see if I know him, and he has no face. So I just look away and keep scrolling on my phone. That is fair. I would look away too. That I don't like that. I don't like that in the slightest. My husband can see what he calls eyeless figures. If you've seen Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, he says that they look closest to the big things in the movie. He says they appear when someone is dying. He sees them in hospitals. Interesting. Very interesting. I do appreciate all these stories quite a bit, actually. I also thank you all for sharing them. Let's see. I had one more story. And it happened when I was in college. I lived with my friends Rita and Alex at the time. And there was one time where Rita came into the living room. And so basically the way it was set up is her room was on the far side. And then there was the living area and the kitchen. And then there was Alex's room. And then mine was perpendicular to Alex's room on the other side. And one time I was in my room just playing video games. You know, it's kind of what I do if you didn't know that. And Rita comes around the corner and she's already really pale, but she somehow turns paler. And she turns back around and walks back to her room, and I don't know what's bothering her. I don't know what's going on there. But she comes out later and dumps a bunch of salt in the corner at the intersection of mine and Alex's room. So basically, she comes and she dumps a bunch of salt in that corner, and she tells us that she saw a woman standing in that corner staring down into my room. I hated that. For now, I am going to go ahead and wrap up stream. We will be able to continue these stories the next time. I have more Chilla's Art games planned for Tuesday, and we'll be continuing this next Friday. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for coming by. Thank you all for being awesome. And I will see you next time. Have a good night, everyone.